Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to another Supatease video, and I'm going to be giving you a rundown of the best spec and class to level as in Wrath of the Lich King. I've had an absolute blast with this specialization being the Retribution Paladin. If you really want to take advantage of this limited time bonus EXP before the launch of Wrath of the Lich King, this is a class that you definitely want to take advantage of. It is going to be a monster in questing, in doing dungeons, in AoE farming, and just in general for gathering experience. I'm somebody who usually doesn't really like the leveling process, and I want it to be over as fast as possible, and found this to be a sensational experience overall, trying to min-max different locations on the map while leveling and finding these interesting areas for area of effect grinding. It was a super exciting specialization to pick up and super fun to play with going throughout, and I felt like I could be really creative with it on the map and kind of carve my own path. Now that is, of course, if you can survive the initial leveling stages of the Paladin, which is pretty much just right click and get some tea and sip on some tea. And this is going to be for the few early levels, probably upwards to 15 or level 20. You want to focus on getting talents that increase your strength or your auto attack damage at this level range, and then respec later on when you're going to be able to get things like Seal of Command. Now, another big advantage of playing the Paladin is that you can be ret spec and tank dungeons. So Seal of Command is going to be doing a huge amount of cleave damage on all these pulls. Consecration also doing a tremendous amount of damage, allowing you to more easily be able to keep up threat. I would recommend, if you want an AoE farming dungeon group, that you have to include a mage for scenarios like this, which allow you to pull monstrous levels of NPCs together, AoE, and then start kiting them when things start to get a little bit dicey and flaky by putting your Consecrate down and moving away from the monsters. That isn't to say that you can't level in dungeons with suboptimal groups. In this one, I've got multiple Feral Druids and Rogues. It's just that I would recommend pulling a smaller number of monsters. You're still going to almost always top the damage meter. You're going to be wanting to use Retribution Aura almost always. I recommend picking up Glyph of Seal of Command as soon as possible. This is going to provide you a lot of mana return. This is something that you need to be picking up, and also to use Hand of Reckoning as much as possible when targets aren't attacking you. This is your taunt ability that I learned while leveling, does a huge amount of damage. You can actually Hand of Reckoning trade with other paladins in your group if you are leveling in dungeon groups with other paladins. Definitely a really important component to consider while leveling. You're going to be able to carry groups. In this group, we were only 4 players. One player took a really long time in getting to the dungeon, didn't accept their summon. I know, really annoying, but you're going to have that type of quality of life as you're advancing through all of the levels and ranks as a Retribution Paladin. And it's just mostly, again, on the back of being able to get things like Consecration. You're going to be able to get instant flash heals, instant exorcisms as you get deeper down the ret tree at the higher level, and it really just gets better and better and more fun the higher level that you get on the Paladin. I have to say, you've got a lot of tools like AoE taunt, single target taunt, to make sure that combat is always kept on you. And as you're advancing through all of the different zones and layers, you're going to be able to find all these cool little nooks and crannies to do monstrous AoE pulls. You definitely want to be wary of spellcasters. If you see any sort of frostbolt casters, fireball casters, you're going to want to stack up the melee attackers on them. I loved using the Holy Wrath on these undead zones like Western Plaguelands and Eastern Plaguelands. You're going to really breeze through a lot of these zones with undead creatures or demon creatures because of all of your enhanced damage towards them and abilities that don't affect other classes. It's a super good time to be able to pick up the Paladin. I was using Blessing of Wisdom for a large portion of my earlier leveling. This is until you can get towards the replenishment talents, towards the bottom talent of the tree, because maintaining your mana is going to be one of the more struggle points for ret until you get higher level. So definitely get the Glyph of Blessing of Wisdom as well, and the Glyph of Consecration, which is going to allow you to keep your Consecration down on the ground longer and not spend as much mana, so that you can go pull to pull to pull with never really ever having to take a break, which is one of the best parts about leveling the Paladin. Because when I was streaming it, I would have people come in my stream like, weren't you level 40 yesterday? Now you're in AV farming full brutal gear. Like, you are really going to breeze through the leveling process with this specialization, just because you can DPS. When you're doing these AoE pulls, you definitely want to be equipping a one-hander and a shield, so I would recommend picking up one of these either from a dungeon, the auction house, or a quest line. Don't vendor them, keep them around. because even as Ret, you're going to be wanting to use a one-hander and a shield in any of these AoE situations, and then weapon swapping to a two-hander when you've got 1 or 2 targets for the 2-target cleave from your Seal of Command. But if you ever get in these dicey situations where you're getting like down to 1 HP, it's a very forgiving class while you're leveling, because you can use things like Divine Shield or Blessing of Protection or Lay on Hands, which is going to allow you to recover in these situations where other classes, if they made a pull like I have right here, would probably just be like deer in the headlights. They're about to get wiped out. So when you have things like Divine Shield, Blessing of Protection, just make sure that there's no spellcasters. If you're going to use Blessing of Protection, you can just make a huge pull and be like, oh, I made a mistake here. I overcalculated my strength, and you can just Divine Shield, Holy Light yourself twice, and you're going to be getting yourself back to full HP while your Consecrate is doing a lot of damage just onto the ground. And then as soon as that Divine Shield is over, your Retribution aura is going to start ticking. While you're leveling, if you're playing the Blood Elf, you're going to want to be using your Arcane Torrent as much as possible just to get mana back, not only to just silence casters to get them to stack in your AoE pulls, but also because it gives you a bit of mana return, and it's something you're going to want to take in account. But I had a really good time leveling this. If you want to take advantage of the XP bonus here, save your boost. Don't use it on a paladin. You're gonna have a lot of fun just leveling this. You get free mounts at level 20, so you're gonna save some gold if you're wanting to level on fresh. At level 40, you're gonna have to buy the mount training, but you'll get a free mount, which saves you again a little bit of gold. So if you're on a tight budget right now, the paladin class is gonna be great. You get talents that make you move faster in the Ret tree, so you're gonna be breezing through the map easier than a lot of other classes as well, which is why I would put this as like the #1 spec to level. And I know, of course, if you're going like, this dummy, doesn't he know about Death Knights? It's like, yeah, I know about Death Knights, but I'm talking about classes that start from level 1 here, not the classes that are starting, you know, upwards in the high level range of level 58 and upwards. I know how powerful Death Knights are. This is more so to take maximum advantage of this bonus 50% XP and to save your boost, because your boost should be used on another class, maybe something like a priest. That's going to be a little bit more of a struggle to level, because I was leveling alongside other players who may have started before me, around the same time as me, and I was able to surpass them just because of how powerful the paladin really is at doing all these AoE pulls and getting monstrous cleave damage. It's really relaxing, honestly, maybe a little bit soothing as well if you just want to chill out. Just make sure if you're going to do any of those kind of risky pulls, any of these big pulls, that you've got a Divine Shield or a Blessing of Protection in your back pocket, and always try and look for situations while you're questing to be able to pull multiple monsters together and AoE them down with your Ret aura and your Consecration when you get to that point, assuming that you've managed to make it past the initial stages where you're just kind of like auto attacking and trying your best to just get through it. And I will say, initially it's like you're gonna maybe get a little bit bored of it 1 through 15, but once you can get past that initial barrier, the incubation period, you are going to skyrocket. You're going to level faster than really anything else. You can just improvise, make your own way, carve your own path, follow a guide if you would like, but I really had a fun time just trying to go to different zones, seeing where I could do massive AoE pulls and seeing how much damage I could really get out, because this class just does so much damage. You can do a lot of crazy and extraordinary things with it. I had an awesome time, and I hope that you enjoyed this video, got something out of it. If you did, make sure to hit the subscribe button, and I will catch you in the next video.